You're watching Monty TV. I'm Jackie Karsh, sitting down now here with Helen Drury. She's the ESG Director for DC Advisory. Thanks so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
What is ESG and why are companies focusing on it now?
Certainly. So ESG stands for environmental, social and governance. And essentially it covers all areas of sustainability for a company. Environmental, social and governance seen as the kind of core themes for those. Environmental will cover things like climate change, water use, energy use, and then social will cover things like your labour rights, your diversity and inclusion, the way you interact with your communities. And then governance is one that's really about how you run your business. So your cybersecurity, your business ethics, but also about your board representation as well. It's really important nowadays to demonstrate that not only are you doing good things in society, but that you're managing your business effectively as well.
What is DC Advisory doing with regards to ESG?
Certainly. So we are aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They're a global blueprint for sustainability that we can all align to. So what's great about that is that any company, any individual can all talk about these principles in the same way. We've selected three that are the most important to us. The first one being reducing inequalities. So within that, we're really focused on improving the diversity within our business, focusing on gender representation, ethnic minorities and sexual orientation as well, so that we can have a good diverse business with diversity of thought as well. The next one is around good health and well-being, how we can support our colleagues to live healthy and happy lives and then improve their productivity so that they're giving the best they can at work because they're feeling good and healthy. And then finally, our third pillar is around climate action, so how we're managing our environmental impacts. And importantly, we've committed to becoming a net zero carbon business by 2030. So it's a very ambitious goal, but it's one that we really know is really important to being a responsible business.
Of the three, ESG, which is the most important?
Well, I think that is slightly subjective depending on the type of business. I would say the governance is important to any type of business because it shows that you've got good governance means that you're a good business, you're managing your risks and you are ethical. For some businesses, there might be more important to focus on the social side. So, for example, if your business model is about, looking at, for example, tech ed, and you are supporting disadvantaged people or people with disabilities to be able to access learning through the technology platform, creates a really good social impact. So if that's your type of business, that would be your really material issue to focus on. If you are, for example, an energy company, obviously things like climate change would be really important to you. So depending on the type of business you are, you would conduct something called a materiality assessment, and that will throw up what are the core issues for you to focus on, because under each of those pillars, there can be up to 20 different issues, and that can make it really difficult for a business to know where to focus. So conducting that type of exercise really helps you understand what are those priority issues. But any business should be focusing on all three. One or two might be more important than the other, depending on your business model.
How do you set measurable goals?
So again, that can be quite a difficult one. Again, once you know what those core issues are, it can make it easier to do. But data is such an important part to that. If you don't have any data, you can't manage what you can't measure. So an important first step is to look at your impacts and then get the KPIs and the data around that. Once you've got a baseline and you've got a broad vision of where you want to get to, you can then start to set your measurable goals around that. It's important that those are stress tested. And I always recommend that a business would get a third-party opinion to make sure that your goals are achievable. We've seen a lot in the last few years, a lot of people making goals around becoming net zero carbon. And because those are goals that go into 2030 or 2040, they're not necessarily realistic in terms of how they can achieve them. So I think once you set your big ambition, it's important to set annual targets so that you know that you can get there in a measurable way that is realistic as well.
Do you think this is really us starting a new chapter in how we relate to businesses and how businesses have to have a little bit more of an ethical responsibility?
Absolutely. Obviously, Larry Fink writes his annual letter every year to shareholders. And I think it was the 2018 one where he said that every business must now demonstrate its purpose. Your responsibilities are no longer just delivering financial returns to your shareholders. You need to demonstrate that you're creating a positive impact in society. And what we'll see over time is the companies that aren't doing that are less attractive to investors, and therefore they'll sort of start being sort of priced out of that market. But those who are doing those things, who are being profitable and creating a positive impact, will get a much better competitive advantage. It's absolutely becoming the norm. Investors are looking at all of these types of things. So if you're not doing them, you could find yourself excluded from that potential investor because they only want to work with businesses that demonstrate a positive impact.
Well, we'll hope that people would do it for the right reasons, but if not just for the business sense.
Well, and that's it. Everyone has their different motivations, and I think it's being able to understand those. If you believe in this agenda and you can see the advantage in it, then you will get a competitive advantage. If you don't, you need to look at the risk side and realise that there may be some elements that you will lose out on if you're not addressing this agenda.